Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion 9.
All right, everybody, hello and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. Guido here along with Scooty.
Hey.
And Johnson.
Welcome to this week's episode of We Ain't Heard Jack from a couple of these basketball players.
We Ain't Heard Jack. I think we should rename the podcast that.
We Ain't Heard Jack.
I got your ears on. We Ain't Heard Jack.
These ears ain't heard Jack from some of these basketball players.
So July 7th, the deadline for players to pull out of the NBA draft is quickly approaching, excitingly enough. Miles McBride, Sean McNeil still have their names in there.
Yes.
And it's, you know, I still may have to set my hair on fire. There is a possibility that they
still a possibility, Scoot, of follicles ablaze.
I mean, I'm hoping for that. Have you ever seen steel wool on fire? It's amazing.
I mean, it'd be hard for steel wool to catch. I mean, it smolders more than anything else. So far, I mean, from what, you know, you guys have seen the same thing everybody else has seen, which is Miles's draft stock continues to rise and Sean McNeil is on nobody's radar.
Yeah, and we saw a reported workout as well of Derek Culver with the Cavaliers. That was kind of under the radar. He was mentioned in a blurb along with some other players, but I saw, Guido, maybe you saw that same, someone tweeted out video of Deuce participating, and it was just a series of Deuce drilling 3-point shots. I mean, he looked great. I mean, like, we're not surprised, right? I mean, we know that. We know he's fully capable of that. But it was cool seeing him out there showing off his wares, and I think I'm excited for him. I think things are going well.
He was in the NBA Combine. It's kind of been all over Twitter, at least WVU Twitter sphere, with him hitting all those shots and just looking good. I still don't think he comes back. I mean, the last couple that I have read, Scooty, you know, they're saying late first round, maybe 30th pick to the Jazz, maybe 27th pick to the Nets.
He's not coming back. I don't think he's coming back. What is interesting is I feel like, or maybe do you guys feel like, Derek Culver may have been like standing outside Cleveland's practice facility with a sign like can box out and rebound,
with the
some sort of
box from he's like Joe
or Cusack, John Cusack with Say Anything or whatever that movie is. Yeah. Like, I think I don't know that he's on anybody's radar. I think he's got some questionable advice, but I've said to you guys all along, I don't think he was coming back regardless of going pro or not going pro. His body language the last 5 or 6 games of the season was really bad, and I think he was going. I think he already had his mind made up that he wasn't coming back.
Well, I don't disagree, but I'm glad for his sake to see him mentioned in one of these workouts, because I think, to me, for him, because I agree with you. I kind of already voiced my complaint about who was it, Miguel Tejada being in his ear and all that stuff, but I think.
Yeah. I think he's getting bad advice if he's getting it from the former shortstop.
I don't like it at all, but I'm glad to see him at least being mentioned, getting some exposure. You know, let's hope that he gets a shot somewhere.
So, and then the third person that we haven't, talked about yet at all is Sean McNeil, not on anybody's really draft radar. Honestly, it's been sort of radio silence out of him on social media and anything else kind of surrounding him. What's your opinion on what's happening there?
I think he's G League Europe bound. I don't think he's coming back to us. Maybe he goes, like I've always compared him to Jimmer Fredette. Maybe he goes the way of Jimmer Fredette and goes to China or something. But Jimmer Fredette was even more of a scorer than Sean McNeil is. Sean McNeil's a shooter. Jimmer Fredette could get to the basket somewhat too.
Yeah, and I think it's funny, Guido, that 2 months ago now, or when we first started this whole speculation, I think it's funny how I thought Sean McNeil, of the 4 I think that we talked about, or 5 if we count McCabe as well, but I think of all those guys, I felt like Sean was the one that would be back with us. And it's funny that I thought even maybe I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I kind of thought also with Taz making his announcement, maybe that would also prompt McNeil to we'd hear something out of him on the socials or something. But so now the longer this goes, the more obvious, Captain Obvious here, but obviously I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like he's obviously leaning toward like what Scoot's saying. I think maybe he's at Europe, maybe a G League.
Oddly
like
enough, though, watch me be wrong, and watch him end up having like the longest pro career of all three of these guys we've mentioned, because that's how the NBA is. The guys you don't think are going to be anything, there's guys like from Shawnee State, and look at Scottie Pippen from Arkansas State, like. Guys that you're not even thinking of, or Central Arkansas. It wasn't Arkansas State, Central Arkansas. There's guys that you're not even thinking of somehow have like super long pro careers, and then
that's true.
Guys that you think are like, oh man, surefire, this is an NBA guy. They fizzle out in a year. Some of them don't even really get like. I mean, I love Javon. He's not even seeing the floor though currently. Like he's on the roster. He's been a lot of does not play coaches' decisions here during the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But on the other side of the coin, guys, so we talk about these two guys that we're waiting to hear if they come back or not. July 7th, last day for players to back out of the NBA draft. But we've also signed. I mean, Huggins has kind of been hot lately, signing some of these commitments for basketball players. Johnson.
Yeah, I think Scoot and I were talking about maybe in no particular order here. I think the one that Scoot and I were talking about lately was Man High School's Austin Ball. We saw some highlights of him from the state tournament, and I think people always get a little bit jazzed when an in-state guy signs. He's a big kid, and that's one that stuck out to me. And then Jamel King, I guess, gets the last scholarship, and he's eligible to join this fall. Now James Okonkwo, Scoot, that's the one that I don't think I've read up on as much as the other two, but
he is a class of 2023, and I believe he in that recruiting class was maybe a top 100 player. He's a really good big man. I believe he was like I'm gonna say he's between 6'8" and 6'10". I don't remember his exact height, but he's a big guy. But he's only a sophomore, going to be a junior, so he's got another 2 years before we really even see him. But he has committed to WVU. We, of course, still have the two Josiahs coming next year. Josiah Johnson and I believe Josiah Davis are the two Josiahs, which is very odd that both of those gentlemen have the same name, and it's a very unusual first name to have multiple people with the same first name.
Yeah, and I think it is. And I think, too, the other thing that comes to mind here, Scoot, is a lot of these guys, I don't know about, I think Okonkwo fits this category, too, but I think both Ball and Jamel King, they're both in that, like, they feel like that 3-4 swingman. They're like 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah.
It suddenly doesn't it feel, with JB, doesn't it feel crowded now at that kind of size?
Well, I don't think we won't see Ball for a while. He's got another year. I think he's actually transferring to a prep school in Virginia, what I've read. However, King is here.
King you're going to see this year.
Yeah,
he'll be here this fall.
I guess King is who I'm specifically thinking about.
If McNeil goes, there's another scholarship that opens up, because they're technically, if you look on their roster, they still actually have Deuce and McNeil listed on the roster because they haven't officially.
That's a good point.
So we still may have some more names that we're going to hear about here. Probably not your top tier recruits, as far as you're not going to find like a top 100 guy floating around this late, but you might see a junior. I can imagine a junior college guy or somebody that's kind of a small college transfer, or somebody in the transfer portal that we're kind of just waiting for a spot on. So,
right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Coach Huggins has got that all lined up. And then I don't know if you guys saw this, but our boy Paulie Pollicap from DePaul is officially on campus now.
Yeah,
so
I did see that. Yes.
He is there.
So I think that, Scooty, because I know we've talked about this before, like, are you now back to a point where you're starting to get excited about next year's team?
Well,
or do you still think it's, going to be in the dumps?
No, I'm excited just to see how the new guys look. To see, I do like always seeing new guys. I also like seeing progress from guys in the past. Is Taj Thweet going to be more part of the rotation? Are we going to see any growth from Kedrian Johnson as far as on the offensive end? I think defensively he's fine. Does he now take more of a commanding role in the team's offense? Right. And then I'm really excited to see what we can get out of Isaiah Cottrell, hoping that, I think he's been working out, so I'm hoping that by the time the season starts, he's maybe cleared to play and we can see him, because I really do think he's going to be a key part of this team, and I feel he is the biggest part of what went wrong for WVU last year.
Right.
Yeah, and Scoot, I think your point from a couple shows ago still stands, though. It feels like a whole lot of moving parts that need to gel together in a little bit of time, don't you think?
Yeah, that's the one thing that scares me a little bit, is that a lot of times Hugs has it, I don't know how he's done it in the past, but he's always had it lined up where when we have kind of a bunch of guys coming in, he's always got some sort of strange foreign trip that seems to coincide with when we get all these new guys. And unfortunately, the NCAA limits, I think you can only do it like every other year. There's some sort of limit as to how often you can go on a foreign trip, and this is not one of those years. So
we can't go do that Spain thing where we just played a bunch of random Spaniards.
Right.
That one
bunch of guys off the street. Yeah, right.
In Madrid. No, we can't do that. But I imagine you're going to hear about some of those like double secret probation exhibition scrimmages with like Penn State or whoever.
Right.
I think that's who, or Purdue. I think we did one with Purdue.
Right.
So speaking about games, though, guys, more of the non-conference schedule coming together. And on January 29th, 2022, we're traveling to the Bud Walton Arena in Fayetteville to play the Razorbacks. Woo! Game's going to be how excited is Gabe Ossaboyan going to be for that game? Well,
in particular, he has circled it, right? I mean, we know Gabe's like, let's get at these guys.
I wonder too, and I when I saw that, I know like ESPN and the television networks have a lot of say in who we play, but I can't imagine that they didn't see. They do look at some of those matchups in the personnel and say, you know what, they've got this kid who's a transfer. He's kind of got a little bit of an edge to him. I bet this could be a good matchup, and at least you're going to hear a nonstop storyline about Gabe Ossaboyan.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Scoot. But am I supposed to believe they looked at Coach Cal and Coach Hugs and they said, no, we're gonna go with the one where that kid used to play at Arkansas? Like, what? Come on, man.
Well, I think it's because we played Kentucky fairly recently. I feel like they try to do mix that up a little bit.
Just feels like a no-brainer to me.
Well, I'm sure everyone's been clamoring for the Kentucky-Kansas State matchup. I've been hearing a lot of call for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Super excited.
What would a wildcat do, or whatever's that stupid little saying they wear on their...
Every man a wildcat, I think.
Yeah, which makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not a wildcat.
You're not a wildcat.
Scoot, you're Enol. You're INAW. That's the shirt you can wear during the Kansas State game. Yes. Sorry, Guido.
You're not a wildcat.
Sorry, Guido.
No, that's okay. The one thing that I thought when I saw that announcement, and and the WVU had put out like your little whatever social media post about it with Gabe Ossaboyan, and I'm like, between that matchup, that game, the picture, is Gabe going to be the star on this team this year? I mean, 50-year senior or whatever he is, 10th-year senior, and coming back and playing again with that free year of eligibility. If Deuce doesn't come back and Derek's gone, I mean, is he the star on that team?
I think it's hard pressed to say that over Taz, though, don't you think? I mean, to me, Taz is such a scorer, shooter, spark plug, microwave guy. I feel like it's sort of like set up for him to be the, hey, you got to shut, I can hear Fran Fraschilla right now. Like, they got to shut down the Tasmanator, next season.
Right. Well, and maybe they had this lined up before they knew Taz was coming back for sure. I mean, that could have been something too. Where I do think Taz is the marquee name right now on this roster. Probably followed by, I don't know. I don't want to say Jalen Bridges. I know you guys want to say Jalen Bridges. That's the West Virginians in you that want to say Jalen Bridges is marquee name.
I love JB, so yes, I do want to say that.
I don't know that he's the marquee name. I don't think it's Gabe. I mean, he is, a guy that's averages like 3, 3, and 3, 3 points, 3 rebounds.
Gabe's a fan favorite, though, wouldn't you?
Yes,
agree?
I do think he's a fan
everyone
favorite.
loves. I mean, I love Gabe. When you see him working his butt off, everyone loves cheering for Gabe. So
I agree. I do agree with that, but I mean, nationally, he's not a known thing.
No, I actually think, and we can maybe revisit this on next time, but I actually think you hit on it earlier. I think Isaiah Cottrell is. People probably aren't thinking about him because of the way his season ended last year, and he, unfortunately, we didn't get to see a whole lot of him. But to me, man, he's an important cog in this whole thing fitting together, isn't he? It really feels that way.
Big man, biggest guy on the team, next to Seni Njai, but big man with experience, can shoot, can post up. He's going to see a lot of minutes as long as he's healthy.
I totally agree.
I guess, the more I dive into it and the more I think about it, the less worried I get about it. And I think it's a Huggins team and they're going to be good. And, I don't
think they're a top 15 team.
I don't think it's going to have, I don't think they're going to have the hype that they had going into the 2020 season, but I think that it's still going to be a solid team that competes in the Big 12.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I guess it just, I'm not, if you want maybe my answer right now, Guido, and we'll see what Scoot thinks, but I think right now, maybe my answer is I just can't decide if we're in that, 3, 4, 5 of the conference yet, or if we're like a 5, 6, you know what I mean? Are we like dead middle or do we have enough to get up into that challenging, those top couple teams?
I think in the next 10 days, we'll have a pretty good idea when we hear if, and who comes back. Yeah. But let's move on and talk about who's coming to WVU on the football side, Scooty. Quarterback news is happening. Yes. WVU lands a huge future quarterback.
Nico Marshall. I don't know how do you Marshall.
I think
he is from Arizona by way of Colorado, I believe. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
that's correct.
Sounds right.
And he has recently committed to WVU. And from everything I've seen on social media, he's also been, I think, doing some work of his own to try to recruit other guys to come to WVU.
Yeah, it looked like that on Twitter, didn't it?
Yeah, so I think, and we saw a little bit of that with Garrett Green when Garrett Green signed with WVU. I think that stuff actually goes sometimes a lot farther than you would even think. A kid saying, "Hey, come on, let's go to the same place." These guys all go to camps. A lot of times they know each other years in advance before ever going to college. So it's a strong pickup by the Mountaineers, not only for the future of the quarterbacks, but for the future of other positions as well, because he is going to do a pretty good job, I think, of recruiting some of these other kids.
Well, he had a laundry list of schools vying to recruit him, and I feel like when you see who's on here, LSU, Michigan, Florida State. Yeah. I mean, it's not Penn State's on here, so not just like group of fives, but I mean some substantial football programs. So I think the reaction that WVU Twitter had to this was it's like this groundswell of
it comes across like this is Neil's first big quarterback recruit, in the sense that, I mean, I don't know what we have with Garrett Green or Goose Crowder, and that's not to slight them, but they didn't come in as heralded as Nico is. So this feels a little bit bigger.
I think that it is big. I mean, granted, you got to remember, he's still got another year of school, so he's not going to be on campus until 2022. Chances of us seeing him touch a football, we
may see him in the spring. We may see him in the spring if he's one of those guys. You may see him in the spring
game, but I think the chance you see him starting or playing on, playing on the team, or playing where you see him on TV. I think it's we're 24 before there's a chance
he'll have to beat out Austin Kendall when we pick him back up out of the transfer portal.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
He gets him back in the transfer portal. I mean, I think you still got Garrett Green, you still got Goose Crowder in there. You've got these, some of these players. I mean, he's right on par. I think the advantage that he has over like a Garrett Green is that he's 6'2", 216, so he's a much bigger guy. I mean, of all the recruits that we've got in the last couple of years, he's bigger. Will Crowder's 6'2", but he's only 190 pounds, and Garrett Green's 6 foot.
Did you see the pictures of his dad? Nico's dad is a specimen. That guy's a big guy.
Did you see the picture of him next to President Gee? That was the picture that's the one that got.
I guess President Gee, though, I didn't realize must be a pretty short stature
small guy. Yeah. He towers over. It's hilarious.
Over Dr. Gee. But.
So that I just I know that you're not high on this year, Scoot, but I think the future is still bright. And I mean, you're when's the last time we had a 4-star, that level 4-star ranked, quarterback come into the...
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't know. I think 2000 is what I read. However, 2000 for a dual threat. I guess this guy's Nico is a dual threat. Yeah. I will say something I did see was 4-star out of WVU here recently, and that was Neil Brown's cannonball.
Yes.
That was a 4-star cannonball.
That was a 4-star cannonball you saw on social media.
Do you see Ed Orgeron doing cannonballs with the fellas?
No.
Do you see is Nick Saban going to get the hair wet with the fellas in the pool?
Not happening.
No.
I mean, I will give Neil Brown that. I think he's a player's coach. I think guys really like him. I like him as a person. I have nothing against him as a person. He's probably a great guy, a guy you'd love to hang out with. I just need to see more out of that offense. I need to see something other than vanilla. Something other than 5 and 10 down the field.
I think I'm with Guido, though, in the sentiment that, or at least what Guido mentioned to you, I guess I should say. I don't think Guido holds this sentiment, but I'm also not very high on this year. But I think this is a huge shot in the arm for 2 seasons from now. Or, if you can just, this is more... Scoot, you're going to love this, right? But everyone, so you see this news, there were some other big gets since the last time we talked on the football side. So the hashtag trust the climbers, they're out in full force. I know you're a team based hashtag base camp, right? But I think
base team or where's the Sherpa? Hashtag where's the Sherpa?
But Guido, this brought the trust the climb out in full force, because I think people are saying, hey, look,
Here's my question, though. How long can you trust the climb? Can you trust the climb for 5 years? Is trusting the climb...
I think Neil Brown, I think you're trusting the climb for 5 to 6 years. And I think for a couple of reasons. I think any coach is going to get a little bit of stay of execution after what they had to deal with for the past 18 months in trying to not only coach
the COVID
and practice.
Thing has maybe saved his climb.
The COVID thing I think has saved a lot of coaches overall.
I agree,
but I think you had to switch. I would imagine as a head coach, you had to completely switch the way that you managed and did your day-to-day operations because of COVID. And so I think if things continue to get back to normal and practices can be normal and recruiting visits can be normal. I mean, this kid, he never took a on-campus visit during a game. His visit was June 11th or something weird.
Well, Scoot, before you ask that though, what do you think also? To me, 2 other things. I think Guido hit it on the head. You guys are exactly right. But then to me, there's 2 other factors. One, people in the know would argue that, Dana left us with some cookie crumbs in the cupboard, right? I mean, that wasn't helping him any. And how do you think the people view all of the transfer portal movements as well? I mean, that's kind of a big factor here too.
So do you, if you are thinking about this proverbial climb, do we count the last 2 years for Neil Brown, or does it start all over?
I think if you were asking my opinion, I honestly think that next year, or this coming football season, 2021 football season, is truthfully his second year. This is year 2. He got 2 years. He got last year didn't count as a year. There was like whatever you want to call it. 1 point, like I think this is you're now into, he got year one, then he got last year, and now he's starting year two.
Yeah, I think you're inclined to at least like asterisk it, right? I mean, it's sort of like year one, then Crazy Town, and now we're moving forward.
So I think it's moving in the right direction. I mean, we've got some good 4-star recruits that we've been connecting with and recruiting. We've got, good 3-star and now a 4-star recruit, signed in West Virginia. And things are going to change in the college sports landscape in the next 5 years anyways, with name, image, and likeness and all the other stuff that's going to play into why a student selects a school. So other things to talk about, just to stay on football real quick, I got to tell you something. Darius Stills is going to make that Raiders team. He is going to be playing on Sundays. And the reason I say that, Johnson, is he switched from, I think he was like number 74 back to his preferred number, 56. And I don't think the Raiders don't let you do that unless you're making a team, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was my first thought, right? Like, he's tweeting that out, and I'm thinking, well, then these must be talking jersey numbers with people, right? I mean, why else would you be tweeting that out? And I think regardless of that, everything I've seen on the social so far has been really just kind of singing his praises about his, the work he's been doing so far. So I think you're right.
Not to I'm not trying to rain on the parade, but I do believe, didn't the NFL recently like loosen up their number restrictions? Like before, you had to be single digit numbers were only for kickers and quarterbacks, but I think, and now wide receivers, I think. But I think now like they're loosening it up where all positions can be kind of whatever number they want to be. So I'm wondering if that played a role as well, because typically 56 is a linebacker number. Anything in the 50s is a linebacker number. You're not going to see that on the line. So I'm wondering if that played a part as well.
Yeah, they passed that. That was back in April. They changed that. You're right, Scooty. They changed that.
And I think too, Scoot. I just from what I remember when I looked at this tweet, people had there's a lot of Raiders fans in the comments. I think they had commented that someone that was 56 actually changed to like in the 90s or something. If I remember reading that opened it up so that he could switch. So I'm not really sure how all that works, but I think there was some story behind how he was able to do that. But I think regardless, it's like, hey, getting things settled for a jersey number, to me, that feels like good news.
And then don't forget, folks, Best Virginia starting here in the next couple of weeks. You can see them play on July 7th in Beckley or July 9th in Wheeling. And then the TBT starts July 17th in Charleston. And Best Virginia, you can get tickets to all of that if you go to bestvirginiatbt.com and get those, support those guys. They're doing a great job. It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, I was looking at the schedules a little bit. It's all on ESPN. I mean, some of those teams are going to be, some of those teams I read half of them and I'm like, I never watched, the CAA conference, so I don't know who these guys are. But some of those teams look like they're going to be kind of fun to watch. And then, of course, West Virginia, if they win their first round, Virginia University UVA has a team that they could face in the second round. And then, of course, it's kind of all lined up in that bracket for West Virginia and Herd team to kind of face each other in the championship game. So definitely check that out, bestvirginiatbt.com. And Alex Ruoff joined the team.
Yeah, Al Ruoff. I mean, he's had a super career in Europe. I think that's cool. I think he was even in Japan here this last season, but he just joined here recently. I mean, he's kind of a fan favorite too, so that's awesome.
I feel, and I'm going to throw this out there: do they have too many guys? Do you feel like they've got too many guys?
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, it's only going to cut their winnings. Obviously, if they win the $1 million, they're not going to get as big a share, but I think it's tough how do you determine starting 5 with that group?
I think that'll be the fun part. I think the fun part of it will be watching that group and seeing who the starting 5 is and who gets the most playing time. I mean, you definitely have some great names on that team.
I think it's interesting to begin with, but even so, when you see a guy like Al Ruoff, it's really now is covering almost the full gamut of Hug's tenure at WVU. You get like Al Ruoff was a holdover, I think.
He feels like he could be Chase Harler's father.
Yeah, I mean he is a veteran, right? I mean he's had a prolonged European overseas career.
I don't know if that might be a little far fetched that he could be Chase Harler's father.
Yeah, but I mean he has been playing for a long time.
Pass me the ball, Dad. So anyway,
cut your hair, son.
Yeah. So, and then the last thing I want to mention, just interesting basketball news, which is Celtics did not hire Joe Mazzulla. Kind of interesting now to see, and I was talking to a few friends about this. Does Bob Huggins think, hey, maybe I should offer Joe Mazzulla a place on my bench and bring Joe Mazzulla back to WVU, considering the fact that, maybe Udoka keeps him in Boston, but does Joe Mazzulla come back and maybe coach some college ball?
I think he could. It's a possibility. What needs to happen, though, I would think would be like a almost kind of like what we saw with Billy Hahn, where maybe like a Ron Everhart decides he's going to retire, or Larry Harrison. I don't know the age of Larry Harrison. I know Ron Everhart's probably pretty close to Huggs' age. They're close in age.
They're about the same age.
So that would be the one, because right now they don't have a spot.
I feel like from a recruiting standpoint that you would want a guy like Joe Mazzulla, early 30s, can be hip with the kids, as they say. I feel like Coach Huggins is a great ball coach, but can he relate to the player?
And he ties kids to that Final Four. He kind of links our team to the younger.
It'd be interesting
generation.
I mean, we'll see what happens. It'll come out here in the next couple of weeks if he stays in Boston or has to move on. But sorry, Joe Mazzulla didn't get the Celtics job. Well, listen, guys, let's take a break, and we're going to come back with a new kind of fun segment that Scooty's cooked up for us. That isn't Can't Believe My Ears. That isn't something crazy. It's maybe something West Virginia-centric. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Eers On.
Vortec Knives is a West Virginia-owned and operated company specializing in high-quality steel, fast-opening, everyday carrying knives. If you go to vortechknives.com today and use the code GYEO, you get a 25% discount on your entire order. That's Vortech, VORTEK knives.com, a West Virginia-owned and operated company specializing in fast-opening, high-quality, everyday carry knives. Vortec Knives.
This is Josh Grout, and you're listening to Got Your Eers On.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Got Your Eers On. Guido here along with Scoot and Johnson. Don't forget, check out our social media. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Got Your Eers, and just search for us on Facebook. It's Got Your Eers On. Scooty, you said that you wanted to have a fun segment.
I do want to have a fun segment.
Scooty's fun segment.
We're going to call this segment.
Okay, what do we call it?
It's a little graphic, but we're going to call it Pick Your Ears.
Okay. Pick your ears. All right. I mean,
I like Scooty's fun segment better.
Scooty's fun segment.
Scooty's fun segment.
Pick your ears.
Don't do it.
All right. Pick your ears.
Okay.
All right. So what is this pick your ears?
It's kind of a
Scooty?
would you rather. It's kind of a which player or coach would you prefer to have in their prime?
Okay.
Okay. And we want to go based off of feel, not necessarily. I don't need you to pull up stats. I don't need you to. I mean, we're going to kind of go off of our memory because a lot of times
you're talking to me and Johnson.
You
we're going to pull up stats.
A lot of times when you talk to Mountaineer fans,
Guido, what he's saying is he wants us to do it like he does.
Well,
all right.
When you talk to Mountaineer fans, a lot of them wax nostalgic.
Yes.
About the time Greasy Neal ran the ball in '04 for the Mountaineers when they wore the Bumblebee unis.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And, Greasy Neal may have been horrific statistically, I think he actually was pretty good. He ended
But
up
people
playing.
loved him.
But anyway,
people loved him. That's why we're talking about him.
But I'm just saying, like, when you pick when you talk to players, people always say, "Oh, remember when they had this guy or that guy?" I know Johnson yells out some names that I've never heard of before because he had like some sort of childhood crush on some guys that mean nothing to me because they were legends in his mind and maybe not really in the game. So anyway, here's my first pick your ears.
All right.
Okay?
Pick your ears. Okay.
Steve Slayton
Yes.
Okay.
or Tavon Austin.
In their prime.
In their prime.
In their prime. Like them as West Virginia. Who would
Running
you take?
backs. Yes, they're both running backs. Which running back would you prefer?
I'll go first, Johnson. I'll go first because I think it'll be easier for me. I would have to go Steve Slayton, and that's I think mostly just because it ties it to that team and the SI. So for me, I'm being emotional about it, Scooty. Like I loved that team. I love that 07 team. I love Steve Slayton and Pat White and the whole thing. So I think I'd go Steve Slayton.
I totally respect that. I mean, I have that SI cover framed. I mean, come on. I love Steve Slayton, and that's why this feels bad, but I think you got to go Tavon Austin. I think Tavon Austin was just Mr. Electric. There are people I feel like who to this day still commit to the university because they've watched Tavon's YouTube highlights. I think he was so versatile. You could put him in the slot, you could put him in the backfield. We didn't figure that out until 4 billion yards against Oklahoma that one night, unfortunately. But that, to me, that leans me Tavon.
Okay. If you were asking me, I would have gone Tavon myself, just in the sense that I like that electric. He was a highlight reel every game. And I know he.
Who had more touchdowns?
Oh, I'm sure it was Steve Slayton.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it.
And Tavon, most of his reception yards came off of a 3-inch shovel pass as he ran past Geno.
That's true, but I can also picture. True. I mean, you can think of punt returns Tavon had for touchdowns. He was all over the place.
Tavon was kind of like the college version of Noel Devine's high school mixtape. Right? Yeah. Noel Devine was like ridiculous in high school. Tavon did that in college. Like there's a cluster of 22 guys on the field, and all of a sudden one of them squirts out of a pileup. And it's Tavon Austin running 90 yards down the field. Like you're like, how in the world did he even do that?
Right.
Okay. Next up on our pick your ears.
Pick your ears.
Quincy Wilson, another running back, or Letty Brown.
I'll let you go first this time.
Well,
Johnson.
You already know where. Come on, you could telegraph this a mile away from me, right? You know where I'm gonna go. Scoot. Quincy Wilson. They used to play the train whistle at Mountaineer Field when he got the ball, when he scored. They loved that he was from Weirton. We all loved that he was from Weirton. And he will be forever emblazoned in your mind for, quote unquote, the run against Miami in a game that we never should have lost. That's a heartbreaking memory of that game, right? But to me, you have to go with him. You have to go with Weirton Steele.
I agree 100% with you. I don't know how but here's the thing. And this is the only thing that would make me want to, and I know Scoot's probably Letty all the way, but the only thing that would make me want to lean Letty Brown would be that Letty still got a chance to have one of those moments. But you're right. Quincy Wilson, like everything about him was, just was West Virginia.
Well, I will say I agree with both of you. I would have been a Quincy Wilson guy. You'll learn if you haven't already. I'm more about the moment as opposed to the duration. I think Letty Brown probably will end up beating him statistically, yards and maybe even touchdowns. Because I don't think Quincy was like a featured back until toward the end. But
he still finished with like 2,700 yards.
But I think Letty could end up. Who knows? But
well, and I would also, just before you leave Letty, he had a wonderful, almost one of those moments in the Tennessee game in Charlotte when he planted. There's I think the best photo we've seen captured of Letty is him just planting a guy into the turf for Tennessee as he rips off a big run. He's had a
Quincy
couple.
Feels thicker and stronger than Letty.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
different kind of running.
Yeah,
I think they
two
were
different
kind of running.
styles. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Next, Skylar Howard.
Okay.
Or Jarrett Deggy.
This is a great one. Here's the problem with this one, Scooty.
The problem is Guido doesn't know how to answer this question. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, the problem. Yeah, that is a problem.
I mean, right now it is a tough time for you because you are wearing a Jarrett Deggy jersey. So
I do have my
that's going to be tough for you to go against Jarrett.
This is so tough. Like, who do you?
It's actually not.
I think it's Jarrett Deggy, and you're not going to hate me for it. I think it's Jarrett Deggy.
Are you sure? Would you like to phone a friend or something?
I don't know. I think it's he's got a chance. It's got a chance. He's got a chance. How can I just have such a hard time?
You're currently trying to convince yourself of this answer. I think you have to go Skylar Howard all day because Skylar Howard is the I don't really know why. I think Scoot, maybe you can verbalize it a bit. I think Skylar Howard's always been one of those guys that wouldn't get on board and play the all shucks, I love West Virginia. Like, he wouldn't completely buy into the, like, I don't know what I'm trying to, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, he wouldn't exude whatever that behavior or feeling that people wanted from him. So he's such a, like, polarizing
he's not running out with the
guy.
state flag,
yeah, he's like such a polarizing dude when you talk to any given myself included. But I think when you look at Skylar's body of work, and I think when you say in his prime, lest we forget, they went 10-2 with Skylar. Now it ended in a against Miami in that bowl game, and they finished 10-3. But I mean, that was a 10-win season. I just think that we give him a hard time, but I think he had some impressive moments.
I'm going to say this: I feel that Skylar Howard overachieved with his size. He overcame a lot of, like, was a JUCO player, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, he overachieved. I mean,
he was only 5. He was like 5'6" in heels, I think.
Like, Jarrett Deggy, to this point, I feel has underachieved.
All right.
So that's how I
don't disagree with you. I just want to. I'm trying to be supportive. I want Jarrett Deggy to do well this year.
Put
and I want to win
down your
games.
carabiners and get off the climb there, Guido.
Well, and I'm not, the tough, so pick your ears is tough because it doesn't mean you're anti the other guy. I'm not anti Jarrett Deggy. I just think that's an interesting, I think you threw that one out there because Skylar Howard, kind of tweaks a certain emotion.
I got some good ones in here.
Yeah,
I got some good picking in the ears.
I'll give it to you, yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to basketball. Right. Okay?
All right, basketball. All right, moving on.
Mike Gansky or Dennis Caliclia?
Yes, thank you so much. Scoot did it perfectly. If my dad was asking the pick your ears questions, that's exactly how it would have been asked. Gansky and Caliclia.
So which player would you pick, Gansky or Caliclia?
I have to go. I think I'd have to go Mike Gansky. Mike Gansey.
Now you're going to do it.
I think you got to call it that. I think you got to call him Mike Gansky.
Gansky. I think I'd have to go him. It was fun to watch him play. That was another good team to follow. But Dennis, he plays the guitar. He rocks a little guitar.
I think, this is another one, Scoot, where, emotionally, I love Mike Gansey. Mike Gansey will always represent a wonderful period of WVU fandom for me. I mean, those teams were so fun. He was such a versatile player, and he was such an unassuming guy that I think a lot of people stepped on the court with him and then just got shook, right? Because he was talented. I think the only pause is when Brent was on the show with us last time, he pointed out that, you forget that Dennis Caliclia had really worked on that sky hook that he perfected that made him super tough to guard. But I think you got to go with Mike Gansey here.
Yeah. I would go Caliclia.
You would.
I like the Turk. I don't like how fast he ran down the court. I felt he was kind of like a lumberjack running down the court.
Yeah, he was great.
But I think that overall player who could potentially have pro potential. And I know Gansey had some time with I think it was the Cleveland D-League team or something like that.
And then he's actually worked in front office positions, after that.
But I think Kılıçdaroğlu was he was a Turkish national team member as a 17-year-old or something. So I'm going to go with the Turk.
And super physical. I mean, Dennis.
He embodied what Huggins saw as the Big East from back in the day.
Yeah,
right.
His arms were massive. Okay. Cam Thurman or Gabe Osaboyan?
Yeah, see, for me, so Scoot's picking moments. And I think that sways my decision to say Cam Thurman because I don't know that Gabe has had his moment yet. I think this season actually could be queuing up for him to have maybe even multiple moments on this team that he'll probably be a leader on. But I think, Scoot, for my money, Cam Thurman will always be the guy shoving Henderson down to the court for Duke as we upset them in to go to the Elite Eight or to go to the Elite Eight, I think that year. In the tournament, that will always be, Cam Henderson will always have that warm spot in my heart. I mean, Cam Thurman. I'm sorry. He'll always have that place in my heart for the way they rolled over. That team was not supposed to be competing with Duke and really kind of came into play.
I think for me, and I get it. That's the hard thing is the moments are hard, but I will say that I think I enjoy watching, especially last season, Gabe Osaboyan play basketball more than I enjoyed watching Cam Thurman play. There were times Cam Thurman drove me utterly insane, and I think the fact that Gabe. I don't expect if Gabe gets 2 points a game, those are 2 points that I didn't expect to get. I like watching Gabe go out and play his defense and do what he does.
No, that's a good point.
I'm gonna go Osaboyan.
No, I like that answer.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you with one last one.
What would you pick on that one, Scoot?
What would you pick, Scoot? Cam Thurman.
I'm gonna say Cam Thurman because Cam Thurman was a big time scorer in high school, and we never saw that side of him. Because he played a role to a T. He
kind of like an enforcer.
Yeah, I mean, he was just 6'6" and just 225 pounds of just setting screens and boxing out. What else? Yes. He didn't do much else.
That's what he was asked to do.
Set screens, box out, and rebound.
That's right.
He protected a lot of guys. So I'm going to go with him. I think, like you guys said, could Gabe have those types of moments, and at times does he play? I think Gabe is a more athletic Cam Thurman, if that makes any sense. I think athletically, I think Gabe can probably do more with his body than Cam could do with his.
Yeah, now I would agree with that.
But maybe Cam is more of an offensive player than Gabe ever will be. And Cam really wasn't much of one in college, but in high school he was. So I would go Cam as well. Okay, one last one for this segment, which has been a good segment, I think. Mark Bulger or Meg Bulger?
Okay.
Which one has more value to WVU?
Oh, man. This is tough.
Well, I'll say this, because this is a loaded one in a lot of ways. I'll say this. For more value, we'll go right off your question. More value to WVU, Mark Bulger, because obviously more popular, can donate more money to the institution because he's made more when he got ridiculous contracts. And if you had told me when he was playing at WVU that he was going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, I would have been like, "You're hilarious." So I'm going to go Mark Bulger.
Yeah, I think I will too, and I think it's also because. I don't know. Mark Bulger seems like through what he accomplished in the NFL, he's always been, and not that Mick Bulger's not, but he has always been such an ambassador for the university. I think even now you'll see him put stuff on social media where he's coming back for visits and he's hosting, events and things like that. So I think I go that way too. Also because he torched Pitt multiple times, and I love that. And
I mean, Meg was a great. She was like a 4-year starter, wasn't she, on the basketball team?
I'm going Meg Bulger.
Well, and now she does. Does Meg Bulger do sideline reporting?
Yes, I think so. She kind of gives me the feel of, and I don't mean to compare the two, but I'm going to, obviously. She's kind of like the Rebecca Lobo of WVU basketball for me, in the sense that she's the first big name or player to kind of put her school's team kind of on the national map, where I think Meg was the kind of the beginning of some of the really good recruiting that Mike Carey has had, because since Meg has left, I mean, they've had some great teams come through.
Rebecca Lobo is a deep cut. It's very Connecticutan of you to bring up Rebecca Lobo.
That's what I got to go with. I got to go with my experience. I can't go back to Dottie Phillips from the 2000 or the 1972 team, at WVU.
Well, I think that's a good point about Meg Bulger, though, because it feels like sort of like laying the groundwork, right, for like some of the things that the program was then able to go out and attain.
When you have a program and you're establishing a program, not a team, but a program, you've got to have a couple of those early players who bought in kind of be the ambassadors for the rest of your tenure, right? I know as a high school coach, I've got a couple of guys that I can look back at and say, these were the guys that kind of brought on some of the other guys, and they kind of raised our level of play and really set the expectations. That's Meg Bulger for WVU women's basketball for me.
That's a great point. Yeah, it is.
Whereas Mark Bulger, he's a good player, but I don't know that he did that for WVU football.
I'm gonna ask you a question that you may or may not know. Who scored more points for WVU? Like points, okay? Who scored more points for WVU of the Bulger siblings? Meg, Mark, or Kate? Who scored more points?
Well, you're asking this. It's probably going to be Kate, because we've not mentioned Kate at all. But
is Kate Bulger has scored more points than Meg in basketball? And yes, and so she scored.
I didn't realize
of course, Mark
this.
Bulger. Yeah. So Kate Bulger has scored 1,700 points, and Meg scored 1,600, about 100 points more.
Totally
less than 100
offended
points
right now at your pickup.
I apologize.
You didn't even bring her up at all.
Well, they're from Pittsburgh, so we can't get too upset about it, right?
I mean, honestly,
right.
Well,
Scoot, thanks for this segment. I enjoyed this.
Yes,
this has been
quality
fun.
Scoot.
Quality segment.
I do what I
Scooty.
can. I do what I can for the people.
Sometimes Johnson and I get a little nervous. Yeah. Let Scoot, let the reins go on Scoot.
Yeah, but hey,
you like picking
you never
your
know
ears.
what you're going to get. This one,
he
picked our ears pretty good.
Shot, nicely done.
All right, guys. Well, we better wrap it up. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another show. Probably once we know what's going on with basketball. Who's coming back? Deuce, Sean. What's going on, guys? Let us know. Call us. Hook us up. Help us out. Hey, guys, don't forget, check out our website, gotyoureerson.com. Johnson, it's sort of like the hub of everything about us.
Yeah, that's right. It's still hanging out at gotyoureers.com, so you can find the latest show in blog form. We'll put all the show notes of stuff we put in there, probably some stuff we didn't even mention, and then you can hit the tune in link and listen to the latest show right in the website, so check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Merch section there as well. Buy your Got Your Eers On gear. Get your Got Your Eers On stickers. All right, listen, we'll be back in a few weeks with another episode. Hope everybody's enjoying their summer and getting ready for a great football and basketball season coming up here in 2021. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll see you next time. You've been listening to Got Your Eers On.